All right, welcome to another episode of the Trump Show or whatever it is. So this week we're going to focus on Donald Trump, who all of a sudden is angry at Putin, if we want to believe what he says. He said, "I don't know what happened to Putin. He's changed." I think this has to do with the strikes that Putin did in Ukraine a couple of days ago, in which, oh, imagine a whole 12 citizens were killed. So he's saying that Putin is killing people, destroying things, and he's saying that if not for me, Putin would have been destroyed, and Putin needs to be very careful. He needs to stop doing this. I think Trump's ego just hurt a little bit because nobody's listening to him. Putin's continuing with his war, and for this war to come to an end, all that needs to be done is for Zelensky to say, you get to keep not Chechnya. What's the area that they have? Crimea, and the places that
The
Putin is saying,
Donbass.
Donbass, yeah, and Crimea, which they took a long time ago. They took that like 2014. But what's his name keeps Zelensky keeps saying we will one day have um we will one day have Crimea back. Crimea is Russian speaking. They don't even want to be back as part of Ukraine. And Donbass doesn't. So I think Trump is just frustrated. And on the other hand, we get reports from Kremlin saying that the US and Russia have decided to do prisoner swaps. So this is just talk by Trump. At one minute he says, "I don't like what Putin's doing," and he's crazy. The next minute he's saying Putin is interested in peace talks, so the peace talks will still go on. It's just a bunch of rhetoric by Trump for the news cycle. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it is actually that. And for once, I will say I agree with you.
Yeah, yeah, we agree on that one.
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Um, well, yeah, I'll agree with you. But and also, what he's
Agree with
also
me.
doing
Agree with me
is
that Norris
he's
is
not
rubbish.
threatening to. Yes,
Go ahead.
he's
Go
not.
ahead.
He's not threatening to. But the problem that Western Europe and the remaining people in the U.S. Congress are concerned about is his reaction is not to decide maybe I need to start arming NATO to face up to Russia. His reaction is to be like, you know what? Let me just get the hell out of it completely and have nothing to do with it and leave the
Yeah, he's gonna
Europeans
wash
to
his
sort
hands like
themselves
Pontius
out.
Pilate. Yeah. That's what he's not threatening Russia with
That's
military
the
action or
direction that I
sanctions.
think he's ultimately going. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think. I think that exactly. I think that he's what he's doing. He is threatening with sanctions, but I don't even think he's going to go through with it. And
No.
even if he does, I think that it's not going to be sanctions that are going to bother Russia in the slightest. I think that he likes to feel like a strong man, Donald Trump, and
Yeah,
he
but he's not.
doesn't. I think what hurts him the most that the Western media, public media, are trying to say that they hurt his ego. But I don't really think that they did. I don't think they hurt his ego in the way they think. They're thinking, oh, he's a narcissist, he's upset. I think they hurt his ego in the sense that Trump felt like, Putin is my friend now. Why is he doing this in front of
Why is he doing
everybody?
this?
Kind
Yeah.
of hurt. I don't think, yes, because he's not being nice to. If you wanted to go on war footing, first of all, turn around, you turn around and be nice to Zelensky, have a photo shoot with Zelensky of them, exchanging peace bracelets and things like that. And and saying, let's go get that son of a bitch in the Kremlin, and let's arm NATO and Western Europe, and let's get back on that horse and get back in, like George Bush type talk. But
Yeah.
Trump is like, you know what? Bugger that for a. But Trump is like, it's not working. All right, bugger that for a game of soldiers. That's what we used to say in England.
Yeah. It's like it's
Yeah,
like
bugger
it's
that for a
like
game of soldiers. I'm not taking part in that. And I think he's running away
it's
from it.
like it's
Walking.
like being playing soccer and you're not playing good. I never liked soccer anyway. I quit. You get my point. So that's what he's doing.
Yeah,
I give up.
exactly.
But here's
Exactly.
the thing: he doesn't
That,
respect. He doesn't
that's the kind
respect.
of tantrum he's using.
He doesn't respect Zelensky. So he wants to be friends with the big boys. He wants to be friends with Putin. And what he doesn't realize is that
Yeah,
Putin
he
doesn't have
still
a problem.
likes Putin more than Zelensky.
Oh, of course he likes Putin more than Zelensky. Putin is a
He still
competent.
likes Putin more. Even now,
Like Zelensky, he
I
sees
think he
Zelensky as
just
a
has
weak.
a natural aversion.
Yeah. And we have to remember that Zelensky was propped up by Biden
Yeah,
regime.
and
Biden was the one who propped up Ukraine. So Trump
yeah,
sees that, all that money that Biden and Obama gave Ukraine for their. So he doesn't like that. He likes strong arm men. Like that's why he even made friends with. Remember when Trump made friends with Kim Il Jun or whatever his name, Il Jun Kim or whatever his name is. So he tends to gravitate towards these people. But what he needs to realize is that Ukraine is an existential threat to Russia. So even though I don't think Putin has a problem with Trump, it's just like I may be friends with you, but if you tell me that I should stop fighting my next door neighbor, but I know my next door neighbor has guns, I say, Kuna, yeah, we're friends, but
Exactly.
I ain't gonna listen to you. So my thing
That
is
ain't
that
cool.
Putin's not going to listen to he's not going to listen to Trump because he knows he has all the cards in his hand. If Putin wants to, he can take all of Ukraine basically. I mean, Poland might try to stop it, but he can take all of it. And right now, the cards are in his hands. I don't think he wants to take all of it, but they're going to have to give him a deal in which he has absolute comes out as the winner. Basically, there doesn't need to be a truce. This needs to be a surrender. Ukraine needs to surrender. That's what Putin wants. And if they surrender, he'll stop attacking. He's not going to take um, he's not going to take what's the capital? He's
Kiev.
not going to take Kiev, as the Americans say, Kiev. He's not going to take Kiev. He doesn't want to because that's too expensive. It will destroy Russia's economy if they try to take over all of Ukraine. But the eastern part of the country is finished, and the eastern part, the Donbass that he's taking, they all speak Russian anyway, and they want to be part of the country. So that's where this is going to end. But like you said, Trump is having his last fits, but he's still trying to do deals with them. And I think what we're going to see with the Trump regime over the next couple of years is just a bunch of dancing. Now, funny enough, Trump said that Putin is sending missiles and killing civilians for no reason. That sounds like Netanyahu to me. You understand what I'm saying? But because
Yeah.
it's happening to Ukrainians, they have a problem. But they don't have a problem. I've seen videos of Israeli soldiers. They say they're going after Hamas, no problem. But every time they shoot small children, their commander gives them high fives, the snipers and things. So even
Well,
if they're going after terrorists, they're still killing individuals and they celebrate when they kill civilians as well. We don't hear Trump talking. We might pivot to that very quickly later on. But what do you think about what I'm saying about it's ironic that Trump is saying I don't think he has much passion when he's saying it, but he's saying that Russia is killing civilians. They killed 12 Ukrainians, which was incidental because they were hitting targets. And he's saying, "Oh, that's terrible," but look what's going on in Israel. Yeah. And any other thoughts you may have? Mm.
yeah, I think Trump is not really too bothered with the look. I think the reason why he's lukewarm, Zelensky was so much, it's more about Zelensky's relationship with the Democrats when they're in power.
Yeah,
What that makes him so cold? What Putin still needs to do is he needs to bring some closure to this
yeah, he does.
as soon as possible. It's in his interest. Why? Because the next government that comes in, if they decide to go with Russia and they start building up and ramping up some kind of militaristic way to get back at them, there'll be a problem. But if Putin ends this quickly, then it can normalize, we can normalize boundaries the way that they normalize all the boundaries that Israel has taken. I mean, the area
Yeah,
that Hamas invaded was actually part of the land, part of Gaza Strip in 1967. So it was actually
yeah,
illegal for Israel to be there in the first place. We ignore that. You know, we keep talking about Hamas being terrorists for killing 400 people, and the West equates those 400 people with 60,000 brown people, you know, and they
mostly
don't
children.
understand. Yeah, and they don't understand why most people think they're sociopaths. They're like, but you know, it's like a psychopath holding a knife and stabbing everyone, and no one can stop him. And then he's trying to he's trying to explain to you why he's doing it and that he's normal, and you're just looking at him like this, like no,
No, you don't know.
you know, or
You don't
trying
know.
to, or
But
going back
but
to
it
1943 and trying to reason with Himmler. That's the
yeah.
kind of thing that you're having to do now.
Here's my defense to Putin. So in the 80s, when Gorbachev or 1990 or whatever, when Gorbachev came in office, they told Gorbachev we will not move 1 degree for NATO, and they did it. Then Putin signed an agreement after he signed an agreement with Ukraine to stop the fighting, and then fighting will stop in Donbass, and they went against that. And Angela Merkel said that yeah, we made fools out of Russians because they trusted us. So now he doesn't trust America anymore because he knows that even if he signs a deal with with like you said, with Trump, when the Democrats come, they won't honor it anyway. So I think maybe what his plan is to just destroy the whole country so that it never can come and be used again. But if that's the case, which I hope he doesn't do, that's because America never honors its treaties. And then for America to seize Russian money, they seized over $50 billion US dollars. That's illegal. They said they did it as sanctions. So that's why people are moving away from the US dollar. So it's like the US no longer can be trusted by any country for any negotiations because they never honor any negotiations. What do you think? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I also think
The boy
that
who
there's
cried
this
wolf.
when going
Eventually, you
back
lose
to
your.
the question first of all of NATO expansion. Um, sorry, you've broken up.
Oh yeah,
Are
you
you
broke. You
there?
broke. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Unstable. Oh dear.
Yeah, you heard what I was saying. I was
You
basically
back?
saying that Russia doesn't
Okay.
trust America, so that's why Putin doesn't want to do a deal with Trump because he knows that even if he makes a deal with Trump later on, the U.S. will break it after he leaves. The way they broke their agreement with Gorbachev that they would never expand NATO. What do you think? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And also the way the Western governments work, they make their people believe that they're the ones under attack. But actually, NATO has actually been very aggressive since the breakdown of the Soviet Union in
Yeah.
expanding into the Eastern Bloc and taking countries and turning them into NATO countries and putting nukes and all sorts of weapons and then making the Western people think that Russia is the aggressor, and
Yeah.
it's actually quite ingenious how they do it. So there is a danger when the Democrats get back in power, because they just like to be obtuse to anything Trump was doing. They want to roll back the relationship. They'll come begging on their knees. They'll apologize to Zelensky, and they'll start arming Ukraine again and all of that. So Putin needs to put an end to this quickly, secure the border that he wants to hold, and create a no man's land zone and try to make peace whichever way he can and try
Yeah,
to
like
work
how they have in Korea, like what they have
on
in Korea.
image cleaning.
Yeah.
Yes, after that, image laundering, maybe just take the distraction away from that, focus on what's going on in Congo, focus on what's going on in Palestine that the West is doing, focus on Trump's antics. Trump's antics are a complete distraction anyway. I mean, if Putin stopped kept Crimea, kept Donbass, secured that border, and then just kept quiet, everybody would forget about it because within a month, Trump would have done something crazy to do something else in another part of the world, and the story would move away from that, and it would just peter away. So Putin has all the cards. Putin has all the cards. The question is he going to keep throwing the dice? When you're on a winning streak, you plan to go home with 10,000, but then you're now on 30,000. You're thinking, hey, maybe, will he stop on his winning streak?
Yeah, he needs
I
to
know
stop.
that what he intended to do was limited, but will he be tempted? Because he can take the whole of Ukraine now. I
Yeah,
think
not
he
only
can
that, the
take.
longer he keeps the
It's
war
up to
going, the
him.
more he makes money for his own defense contractors and
Yeah.
stuff. That's the problem. Yeah.
I would say it would be wise for him to stop
Yeah, we
once
want him
he's
to stop
taken those areas.
and focus on sending troops to help Mali and those countries to secure those resources in Africa.
Well,
I'm
yeah, I
serious.
mean, you save, yes, he needs to save money, save the economy. And when he stops, try to even repair the relationship with Ukraine, try to get those people that were out back in, try to stir up insurgency in Ukraine instead of having all out war. Recover Donbass, Crimea, and step up your insurgency. I mean, you're closer to that area than America. You should be able to
All
do
this shit is
something
ridiculous.
insurgent there.
It's all
Yeah,
ridiculous.
revamp the KGB.
Yeah.
What's Russia now using now? They don't have KGB. I don't know. I'm so
Whatever.
bad
They
with
have their
that, but
secret service.
whatever it
Yeah.
is. And
Yeah.
yes, they
And
say
this,
they need to get into Ukraine and
yeah.
just keep an eye on it. So don't let it get out of hand again.
Yeah, that's what
Don't
they need
let
to do.
don't let the world call it another Poland 1939 by
Yeah.
taking the whole of Ukraine, because then they'll say, "Oh, Georgia's next," because Georgia
And
also
also
wanted to
Russia needs
join.
to start giving they need to start supplying Western Europe with their cheap natural gas again. Once those Western Europeans get that natural gas and their prices of food go down, the citizens will be like, "Oh boy, Russia is our friend." I'm serious, but
Yeah, yes,
the
I
European
hope
leaders
so. I
the
mean,
European leaders won't let that happen. The people will let it happen, but the European leaders won't let that happen because the European leaders are an extension of the American government. You understand what I'm saying? They're not even like, for example, the leader of the EU is really an extension of America. She doesn't care about European
yes,
citizens because Germany allowed the US to bomb Nord Stream. Can you imagine that? You allowed the US to destroy your infrastructure. That's an act of war. Germany allowed the US to go to war against Germany because they hate the Russians so much. Do you see what I'm saying? It doesn't
you
make
know,
sense.
the irony of the world right now is that the average worker, yeah, the average worker is more productive now because they can work from home and they have more gadgets. They're more productive, but they have less but they have less earnings because of the way the system is geared. So it's not really good for the ordinary man. And
This has got to change,
yes,
man.
alleviating the cost of yes, these things need to change, and
Well, that
I
means that the
think these
economy needs
things
to
can
change
only
too.
change by.
The economy needs to change back to production
Yes,
because when you produce
I'm
stuff,
going to say this for the first.
yeah.
Yes, and I think Europe and the Western world itself need some form of revolution in themselves to reinvent themselves,
Well, they need a
because
socialist industrial
the
revolution. Yeah.
yes, because as they're being exposed for what they've been doing in Africa, and with BRICS being a solution, because before it was just Africa crying and then people just laughing and then we move on. But now there is a solution, and that solution is growing. And as that solution grows, it becomes a bigger problem for the West, because when they lose the Sahel, they lose Ukraine, they're losing all these areas of influence, and the global South moves in on them, and they will have to reinvent themselves if they want to continue to thrive within that community, because what they've been using is supremacy, and they're
Yeah, they
using
need a sustainable
supremacy
model. They
against
need a sustainable model. Yeah.
yes, a sustainable
My, my
model that is not supremacist,
yeah. My theory is
but
that
more of a proper global commonwealth, which is what
my theory is that
BRICS is trying to be.
yeah, my theory is that Europe has to go back to agriculture, education, technology, but move away from finance, move away from printing money and speculation and all these things. And also, they have to move away from growth. It's not important that you have population growth. What's important is that whatever population you have is sustainable for your people and they're happy. But they keep pushing for growth, but growth leads to inflation, that type of thing. So, but that's a story for another day. All right. So
Yeah,
last time before we get out.
I think that decadence and depravity, and when you
Oh yeah.
don't have too much money, you don't know what to do with it.
Oh yeah. Because now
You
you
start
have
having
money for
spending thousands of.
you have money to spend 15,000 so that you can change off, cut your dick off, and become a female and shit like that. That's where they're spending their money on
Because
dumb
you
shit like
don't need
that.
that money. That's what they don't need. Yeah, that's when you have too much money in your economy. You don't need that money. Strong men build strong, bring strong societies. Strong societies bring soft people. Soft people bring weak societies, and weak societies bring weak
Yeah.
men, and then you have to start the whole cycle all over again.
Look, all you need
And
is electricity, healthcare, food, and a few things like cars and technology. That's all you need. You don't need to
and
go
basic justice for the
basic.
common man.
Yeah, basic
Basic
justice. That's the most
justice.
important. That's
Uh,
the most important.
yes.
All right, so let's get out of here,
Yeah.
man. I want to continue drinking beer. That's what I need, fucking beer. And beer is made by wheat, and Russia has a lot of wheat. I am a Russian.
Or Bali.
All right, Kool-Aid. Last words of wisdom before we get out. Yeah,
Okay, so it's been a good day. We've been talking about that enigma that is Donald Trump
yeah,
and his tantrums with the beast from the east, and
yeah.
we shall watch as the developments continue to grow. So, from myself and from Mustafa, I bid you a farewell and good day till the next time.
Enjoy. I'll see you tomorrow. Nice one. Okay.
All right.
I was scared. I thought I forgot to press record. I was about to have a headache.